Hey everybody, Norm from Tested here at New York Comic Con 2019. This is actually the Tenacious Toys booth. A lot of chance to chat with Benny at Tenacious Toys. Also who happened to come by was James Groman. It's first time meeting you, the artist, the man himself. You're behind one of the most interesting designer toys the past couple of years. This guy right here, the King Korpse. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, pleasure meeting you too. I'm a fan of the show. So.
We didn't even know you watched some of our
Absolutely.
stuff. Oh, Mutual Appreciation Society.
Yeah, you guys go Rick Baker's studio and Phil Teppett and all that stuff. Oh my God, I'm a fanboy from way back.
And we're big fans of yours as well. Not just this figure, but the other ones stuff that you've done. Love to just pick your brain a little bit about how you approach this design and your style. So tell us a story of how this came to be.
It's actually. As a young man, a young artist, I was like just a steady diet of like sci-fi movies and Saturday morning television and loved monster comics and things like that. But my all-time favorite movie, as anyone that knows me is the original King Kong from 1933. Not as crazy about the remakes, but that movie inspired me. This was a total homage to him, to that film. But of course, not having the license or kind of wanting to do my own version of him. That's what led to the Korpse version of him. But there's still all those little details that are in there that are kind of allude to that original movie.
I mean, not only is it a great name, but also like the sculptural detail on it is very evocative of your other work. You've done like a T-Rex creature.
Oh yeah, Rotten Rex.
Yes, and so the whole decomposed look. How did you come on that?
It's funny. It might have started with, I'm known for Mad Balls, those old the little rubber foam balls from back in the 80s. And then I've done all the other versions of them over the years for Kid Robot and another re-release in 2006. And it's all kind of gross. It's all of a sudden I just kind of like, being a monster guy, I just really started to get into all those gross details and everything with Mad Balls, and it's kind of carried over into my personal work.
It's folding skin, veins.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like I love texture. Yeah. So it's like I can do bone texture, flesh texture, veins, muscle, fur, scales. All that stuff fascinates me. So it's a chance to do all that stuff on one figure.
I think that's what's really striking about this, that texture you mentioned, because it allows for the paint schemes to be so varied. Right? These are very limited releases put out by Instinct Toy. This is a one-off, by the way, right?
This is a one-of-a-kind, yes.
One-of-a-kind that you painted. You also paint the one-offs, but you have monotone versions that evoke black and white serials. You have really vibrant versions, and those are all just part of your canon of art.
Well, it's mostly to everyone, people that collect them. I sell these for their kind of extravagantly amount of money. And so I usually try to make each one very, very unique, so they are a one-of-a-kind. Sometimes I'll use two colors that I've used before, but I always try to make them so someone's paying a lot of money, they got one that nobody else on the planet. So sometimes you have to get really crazy with the colors. You have to be really experimental, and it's actually kind of gets me out of my comfort zone a lot of times, and you get some really nice stuff.
And it does kind of bring back the Mad Balls, all sorts of bright greens and magentas, those color schemes I see these pop out as.
Because every one of those details needs its own color.
Yeah.
So you got bone color and vein color and fur and all that stuff. Everything's got to be unique. So
the figure you must have like memorized by heart all the different parts. So when you approach a paint job, you know exactly, okay, these are the 5 colors I'm working with. This is how they're going to complement each other. What's going to be on the bone? What's going to be on the fur?
It's funny. I'll start with 2 colors. I know what I'm going to do for the fur color. I know what I'm going to do for like the bone color. And then once I've gotten the bones painted, then I've come up with the other colors. Very rarely do I start with the color scheme figured out. I kind of like the organic nature of just going at it and starting to figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
So that seemed to work.
And like you said, these are highly sought after. They're ultra rare.
This was Toy of the Year. 2017 Toy of the Year.
Totally. We saw it at DesignerCon.
Yeah.
I walked past them like, oh, that is so striking. But something a little more attainable. You have a collaboration with DC Comics. Your take on Batman characters?
Yes, which King Korpse totally led to that because Jim Fletcher at DC Collectibles actually was at Five Points Festival a couple years back. Saw King Korpse, he bought a t-shirt, he was wearing it around at DC Comics, I guess, and everybody was responding to it. And he said, yeah, I talked to Jim about working with us on something, and I think they were originally going to send me some of their monster characters, like Swamp Thing and everything, but then they said, no, that's too logical. Let's try, what is he going to do with Batman? What's he going to do with Batman and his rogues gallery of villains? And I jumped at the chance. It was so exciting because being, of course, a fan of comics, particularly Batman, having my way with him, it's like, it was very fun.
And that all started with sketches,
yes.
2D art, then transformed to 3D turnarounds.
Yeah, and they were hands-off to an extent where they knew that I respected the character, so I wasn't going to do anything that was like disrespectful to it, that they'd have to like sell in a brown paper bag or anything like that. They knew that I was going to do something that still stuck with the character's DNA, but most of the notes that came back and forth are really good ones, but they let me go. They said, no, we want this to be you. And so that's what I did. I had a whole storyline for the characters and everything in my own head, helped me kind of formulate some of the details that are on their bodies and everything, because I'm big time into the details, as you can see in the sculptures I do. Everything needs to tell a story for me. It's like when you pick up a figure, it's not just like, that's a cool looking figure, but as you look at it, a story starts to come together.
And they're still in the toy world. They're vinyl, they're ABS, they're the materials that we grew up with and love. Are there materials that you want to work with in future sculptures? Or?
Yes, actually ZBrush, of all things, is that it's not so much that, it's the tool of the trade nowadays, and it just streamlines the process. And a lot of traditional sculptors, this was sculpted in clay. A lot of traditional sculptors are not fans of ZBrush. I'm actually a fan. I think it's wonderful, and it streamlines the process. It makes things easier in a lot of ways. The only thing that I think it does detract from is that sometimes you lose a little bit of an artist-specific style. People tell me when they see my sculptures that they can tell it's one of mine from a mile away. I think sometimes we start to see things get a little bit homogenized with ZBrush, but I'm starting to see more artists bring out their own personal voice with it, but that's something I want to learn.
I can't wait to see what you do with those tools. Follow James on Instagram. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yes.
I'm geeking out right now.
I'm glad you were here when I came over.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, very nice meeting
Pleasure.
you.
And congratulations to whoever wins this one here at the Tenacious Toys booth. Thanks, Benny, for letting us chat in this booth. See ya.